Hi, I'm Jo Birtwistle. I'm Editor-in-Chief at AccountingWEB and your host for the Bookkeeping Show. Our previous episodes are all available on demand, and we have a library of 11 other bookkeeping shows for you to check out. Today's episode is actually part 2 to last month when we discussed building a team as your bookkeeping practice grows. We talked about when it's the right time to take on staff and shared strategies and best practices for recruiting. We had planned to also talk about onboarding, training and retaining the best employees to help your practice thrive, but we ran out of time, so that's what we're going to cover today. If you're watching live, please do ask questions as we go along, and we'll try to pick these up as part of the discussion, or if not, we'll run through them at the end of the show. Let's kick things off by introducing our panelists for today. So welcome to Karen Kennedy, who is founder of Kennedy Accounting and was on our previous episode about recruiting. And also welcome to our regular Jo Wood from the Six Figure Bookkeeper. Karen and Jo, thanks so much for being here today. I know we do it every time, but for those who don't join us every episode, let's just start with the usual introductions, what you do, and then given today's topic, how many staff you have today, whether you've recently recruited or if you're in the process of doing so. I think that would be really helpful. Brilliant. So I think we'll just pick up where we left off on the last show, right? So you've made the hire, it's your first or second employee, presumably, probably, and they're starting on Monday. Let's just talk through that process for onboarding a new team member. Jo, what do you do on that first day? Or maybe even other things that you can do before they even start?
Yeah, so the kind of conversations we're having at the moment, because I'll be really honest, I don't think we've got this 100% nailed. I think there's always like an evolution and we're going to get better over time and realize what we need to do. So one of the things I think about is like, you've got to think when you started a job at one point and think about the things that kind of you liked and the things you didn't like. And it's things around like having a laptop. Especially working virtually, this is something I need to think about now because I can't talk to them about it on day one because they won't have anything to work with. So the kind of conversations we're having now, obviously, lots of people already have laptops and things at home. And we had a conversation with one member of staff and she's like, oh, I understand that you buy laptops, but actually I'm a Mac user. Is it okay if I use my Mac? So we have very different conversations than if we were a traditional office-based business, because I want people to be comfortable with whatever it is that they're using. But it's not something we're going to invest in. Macs are a lot more expensive to be purchasing for new members of staff. So we're talking about that, and we're talking about the kind of internet access that they need. Like, we're virtual. They need to have really good internet access. If they haven't got that, we have been able to kind of, when we've had first and second interviews, you can kind of tell the kind of technology setup that people have had. And that is part of it, and having those discussions about, you're going to be on Zoom, so you've got to have good technology and internet access. But really, we are starting to chat now with our team. We've only offered the roles last week, so but it's kind of quick. People are ready to work. So maybe in the past, people might have had to give 30 days or 2 months notice, whereas what we're finding is that the people we're hiring are different. They're very much more fluid. Lots of the people that are coming to us part-time, and they already have another part-time role. We had 70 applications for a job. We did 10-minute fast, quick intro, just to get a taste for we like their CVs, but were they worthwhile to go on to a proper interview? And then we did all the proper interviews last week, which was 6. I could have hired everyone. They were all amazing. So I've had to go through a very fast process. But what was interesting this time around is that only one wanted full-time. Everybody else wanted part-time. And they usually meant that they had another either part-time side hustle or family commitments or sometimes another role with another firm. And I found that was completely different this time. So we're taking on people that are busy and that have got other things. So I think this week we'll be really focusing on that communication of what we need them to have ready, but also what we need to have ready. So I always start off with the technology, because that's something, if I've got to hire a laptop, it's going to take a bit of time. I've got to get their addresses. We need to get contracts and things sorted and signed. ID, we need to, verify all of these things before they start. So there's quite a bit to do before day one.
And that's someone who's, like you said, is qualified and does have experience. Karen, presumably it's very different for you. We've talked about taking on school leavers, so quite a different experience. Do you have a very different approach?
Similar sort of approach
Right.
in terms of a mix of utilising, software providers and kind of showing how it's done. And although, well, Andrew, my first hire was a school leaver. My most recent hire is she actually went and did like a year's kind of accountancy course, but she's never worked in practice. So she has a bit of theory, but that's it. So there's still no practical knowledge. So, looking at them side by side in terms of experience on day one, they're both the same.
Mm-hmm.
So when I took Andrew on, I kind of had a plan for the first few days. But actually it came to like halfway through day one and I was like, actually, I'm just going to get you started on Dext. So it's this kind of straight in at the deep end.
Okay, well, we are doing really well on time. I think I'm going to do the usual top tips from each of you. You've got 3 areas to choose from. So we've covered onboarding, we've covered training, and we've covered retention. So I'll let you, from one of those 3 areas, if you could each give us a top tip to leave people to think about as we leave today.
I think my top tip is I have now been employing for 15 years, and give yourself a break and know that as long as you're trying your best and that you're willing to look at things with fresh eyes, change it up, know that you're not perfect and it's fine that it's not perfect, but as long as you're trying your best, and just make some time to set up some new processes around this. So, we recruited not that long ago, but things have changed since the world has changed. Even everybody that we've been looking at and talking to, a completely different set of people compared to last time. So I know that this is fluid and that you're never going to have something that's cast iron set in stone that you can have forevermore with your kind of staff recruitment retention strategy. And the other thing that we haven't touched on, but something I wanted to say, is that actually staff offboarding is just as important as staff onboarding.
And Karen, your top tips?
I think given the kind of recruitment crisis that's apparently out there, mine's going to be around retention. And I think we all focus on client retention and client service, but focusing on employee retention the same way as you would clients would be my top tip. So in terms of client service, the question we ask ourselves in the business is, if we were a client, how would we want things done? Like, how would you want to feel when you're part of this business, kind of thing? So it's just doing the same thing. If I was my employee, how would I want to feel? How have I been treated in the past, potentially? How can we do things different? And just kind of, they can't get everything they want, but you can make it, a really good place to work. And that can help with employee retention.
Great. Thank you so much. I think we're going to wrap things up now. Our next episode will go live in a month's time. Topic TBC, but we might have actually decided it right now. Feels like there could potentially be a lot to talk about around, when a client decides to leave you and having those conversations, and then, like you said, offboarding and making that a really, really positive experience. So watch this space, and we might well be covering that one. But otherwise, I shall say thanks so much for joining us today, and thank you again to Karen and Jo, and goodbye. We'll see you next month.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.